What's going on, everyone? Alex de Silva. I hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I've got a really cool guest. Matty is here to talk about his journey. He's another survivor, let's kind of call it. I don't really know what to call this, Matty. So you're going to have to kind of help me out what we kind of call ourselves afterwards. But Matty's been through the journey, very similar journey. He kind of reached out to me on Facebook, and we sort of just hit it off. We've got very similar mindsets. So I reached out to him and said, look, I'd love to hear more of your story, and also as well to kind of share this experience to more people, because the more and more as people, you guys have been listening to the episodes, it's been impressive how many people don't know anything about this. So first of all, Matty, welcome to the podcast, man. Really great to have you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. First time being on a podcast. Spend most of my time listening to them, especially when I'm in the car. But yeah, excited to obviously share the journey.
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure, man. Listen, I know it's one of these things that it just takes us. And tell me your story, because I want to hear your story really from your own words, and just kind of really elaborate on it, because for me, it just took me by surprise. It's not something that all of a sudden just kind of happens and you're expecting it. I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect any of this, and I didn't expect to be where I am today. So talk me through you, like what happened with you, how did it kind of come about, and and how did it kind of develop?
Yeah. So I think before I go into the latest episode, I think it's important to highlight that probably about 18 years ago, I had a similar operation on the same level of the spine, which is L4, L5. But that wasn't an emergency procedure. I basically had sciatica, which was caused from a car crash. I basically had a herniated disc. I classed that as a successful operation, because clearly I've gone all this time, and nothing major has happened until earlier on this year. But since then, I've always had a bit of a niggly back. It's that good old saying, "Oh, my back's gone." I don't know how many times I've said that in my life, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of other people out there that have used that expression as well. But going to this latest episode, it was in August this year. So it was on Friday the 25th of August when I sustained the injury, and I was basically just warming up for a run, just doing the usual stuff before you go, a little bit of dynamic stretching, the leg kicks and all that good stuff. And I remember specifically just doing forward and backwards leg kicks, and it was my left leg. It just went up, and I just felt something go in my back, and I thought, "Oh, that didn't feel right," but didn't think much of it at the time. But it hurt. It was in my lower back, and I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll go for a run. I'll start running. Hopefully, I'll run it off, because previously that's what I've always done. I've always just kind of trained or ran through it, and it's always kind of sorted itself out because it's been very minor. Anyway, started going for a run. After about 5 minutes, picking up the pace a little bit, and then I just felt the bottom of my back I just felt this massive wave of pain go through it. And I thought, right, this isn't right. And then 2 or 3 minutes later, I'd come to a standstill. 2 or 3 minutes later, I got this radiating pain down both legs, in particular the hamstrings. And the only way I can describe the pain was it felt like someone had hold of either end of my hamstring, and then were just pulling it as tight as they could on both of them. And the pain was excruciating at the time. And I remember being on my hands and knees on the pavement, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get home here. Anyway, managed to get home. And my wife and my daughter were out at the time, because my little girl dances, and she was at dance practice. It was on the Friday, because and I think she was dancing till like 7 or something like that. Managed to get home. Was on the floor in the front room, going through all kind of trying to find the most comfortable position. And I found that the most comfortable position that I could find was kind of my knees up to my chest and on my side. So it's basically like the recovery position, but with both knees up, if that makes sense. Walloped some painkillers in. And I remember calling my wife and I said, I've really hurt my back and I think it's quite serious because I've never experienced pain like this. And I was like, you're going to have to get somebody to bring you home, because usually I'd collect them. And I stayed on the floor then until they arrived back. So I was probably on the floor in the front room for a good 60 to 90 minutes, just in this one position, because if I got in any other position, this pain would just erupt again. So I thought, what do I do? What are the options? Clearly, I can call 111, I can go to A&E, or I can try and manage it myself. So I decided to see how it went. Had some more painkillers throughout the evening. Went to bed, in and out of sleep all night. Clearly, because I was in this pain, trying to get in these positions again. On the side was the most comfortable position. And then I remember getting up in the morning. I said, I need to go to the hospital. So at that point, I couldn't drive, clearly, because I was in so much pain. So my missus called my sister. My sister came round. This was early. This was probably about 7:30 in the morning on Saturday. The ideal time to go to A&E, clearly, 7:30 on a Saturday morning. Got to A&E, and I remember just collapsing out of the car, and I'm like, I can't walk in there because of this pain. And I remember just lying on the floor outside A&E because it was the most comfortable position. Next minute, some doctor comes out, and a porter comes out. He comes out with with like a wheelchair. They're like these really sturdy chairs with wheels. They're not proper wheelchairs. It's one of them that you throw off a building. There's no chance it'll break. It's that sturdy. And I'm like, I can't sit down on that chair because the pain is that bad. Anyway, I managed to get on my feet, and this porter just grabs hold of me, links me on, he goes, come with me now. And we went straight through A&E, embarrassing as it was, absolutely chocker. My local A&E's that small, you couldn't swing a cat. And I'm held onto this guy, like this. People must have thought I'd about 10 pints or something. Anyway, got me straight through, and got me on a bed. And then I was seen pretty quickly, to be fair. It was probably about half an hour. They triaged me while I was on the bed, so I didn't have to wait in A&E, clearly. And then this doctor came in, and he did all the usual tests, similar to what you described. I think it was in your first episode. Finger up the bum and all that lot. The prick tests, testing for sensation, all that good stuff. And at this point, I wasn't too numb. So when he's done the test, putting his finger up the back passage, I could feel it and I could squeeze. So at this point, that aspect of it was okay. And I remember stumbling to the toilet as well while I was in there, and my bladder was still working. And at this point, I hadn't opened my bowels since I think it was the day before when the injury occurred. I think it was like in the morning or something like that. I can't actually remember. And he goes, right, he's basically said, I want to be pretty certain here. So he said, I'm going to try and get you in for an MRI scan. And I was all right, okay. My sister's with me at this point. And he goes away probably for about 40 minutes. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to get an MRI scan today. Because I've had MRI scans in the past, and, you're waiting, a good few weeks. Anyway, he comes back and he says, right, come on. I've got you an MRI scan. I was like, right, happy days. I got in this under the MRI machine. Obviously, I lay flat on my back. All these noises are going off. And I just remember my right leg going numb. and I was really uncomfortable. And I thought, this doesn't feel right, but is it because I'm led down and maybe I'm a little bit hyperextended because of the lying position or something like that? So I did mention it to him. I said, listen, my right leg's gone a little bit numb, especially when I was lying down. I went, right, okay. And he put me on a ward. And he said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to send your MRI scan through to the Walton Centre, which is in Liverpool, which is probably about 40 minutes from here. It's a neurology hospital. Apparently it's one of the best in the country, and from my experience it is very good. And he said, we're going to send it to the specialist there, and basically get an opinion from them, because that is their kind of bread and butter type thing. So I said, right, okay. And I was probably waiting for about 2 hours, which is what I'd expect anyway. And he comes back and he said, right, you have got some disc problems, but from the symptoms that I've described to the neurologist, and from them looking at the MRI scan, at this stage, they're happy for you to go home and manage it and see what it's like. And I'm like, right, okay, you're the experts. So clearly, I trust what they say. I go back. I go home. And at this stage, it was like tea time or dinner time. So it was time to start winding down, because I was in hospital pretty much all day. And at this point, I started getting a little bit more numb in my legs, and the pain had decreased, which is quite bizarre, really. I remember going to bed that night, and I slept in my daughter's bed, and she slept with her mum, just because I'd been moving around a lot, trying to get in a comfortable position. So I slept on my own. And I remember waking up at points through the night, and I'm like, I can't feel my legs here. I can't feel my genitals. And I'm like, this isn't right, this. And when it came to it, and my missus always gets up really early. She's up at like sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock. And I think I called her in. She obviously walked past the room, and I called her in and I said, listen, this isn't good. I'm numb. I need to go back. And she's like, right, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, right, call 111. So she calls 111. They advised to go back to A&E. I was like, right, okay. And I said to her, I'm not going back to Southport. That's where I'm from, Southport. I want to go to Aintree A&E. Aintree A&E is right next to the Walton Centre. Albeit it's a 40-minute drive, 45 minutes, give or take. I said, right, I'm going to get there. So she phoned one of my friends, and he was like, she said, can you take him? He was like, absolutely, no problem. Luckily, he's got a camper van. So he rocks up in this camper van, fresh bedding on the lot. He goes, go on, have a lie down. So I got first class service. Heading to A&E. And we got there, no problem. Walked into A&E. At this point, I'm numb, but I'm in no pain. Weird, totally weird. I'm walking around, kind of pain-free. Maybe a little bit of a niggle, but the majority of the issue was numbness. Both legs, saddle, back passage, all the usual kind of red flag areas, if you like. Get triaged. Right, go and wait in the waiting room. This is a Sunday morning, and the A&E is dead. I couldn't believe it. There's about 2 other people in there, and historically, that A&E is known to be really busy, because it's the main trauma centre as well. Luckily enough, got seen pretty quickly. I probably only waited about half an hour, 40 minutes. And the fact that I was presenting these symptoms was probably a contributing factor to that. Obviously, I know when they triage you, they put you in kind of order of severity, if you like. Went in, this doctor again examined me. Remember his name, it was Fortune, lovely guy. He did a thorough examination. And I remember I was lying on the beach, said, okay, close your eyes. Let me know when I'm touching you. And I'm closing my eyes and I'm thinking, are you going to start, basically? Because about a minute's gone by, and I open my eyes and I'm like, are you gonna begin? And he said, right, okay. And then he starts touching my left leg a bit higher up, and I can feel it. So I'm saying, yeah. He goes out the room. My wife says to me, my wife's with me at this point as well, did you not feel him touching you? And I was like, no. He said he was doing it quite firmly as well. I'm like, no, I didn't feel it at all. And at this point, I'm having a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke with him, not realizing the severity of what's actually going on. Anyway, cut a long story short, he comes back into the room and he says, right, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the waiting room. But I don't want you to have anything to eat or drink. I want you to be nil by mouth. And I'm like, right, okay. He says it's just as a precaution, nothing to worry about. And I'm like, right, okay. And then away, probably about 20 minutes later, a trolley comes, two porters. Okay, hop on. You're going over to the Walton Centre. So there's a bridge that connect the two hospitals across there into the ward. And I'm lying there. The nurses do the usual stuff, do their observations, ask you all your details, all that good stuff. And then we're sat there. The curtain's drawn at this stage. 3 surgeons come through, and they're like, they ask a couple of questions. How are you? How's the numbness? All that lot. And then he goes, right. What we're going to do is we're going to make an incision. Then we're going to do this. And as soon as he said that, I'm not listening to what he's saying anymore, because I'm like, right, I'm in surgery here, and he's probably speaking for a further minute. And all I'm thinking about here is surgery. And he stops talking, and I said, right, so I'm having surgery, am I? And he goes, oh yeah. He said, yeah. And I said, is that due to the numbness? He said, yeah, basically, due to the numbness. You're presenting red flags. At this point, I wasn't aware of Cauda Equina. And then I was probably wait. I said, when am I going down? And he said, as soon as possible. And I waited for probably about 2 to 3 hours. Went down mid afternoon, maybe about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then at that point, I was struggling to go to the toilet, as in urinate. And I remember you go into a little room, don't you, where they put you to sleep before you actually go into the theatre.
Yeah.
I was in that room, and I needed the toilet. I could feel that my bladder was full. And I said to everyone in the room, listen, I'd really like to go to the toilet. And he said, it's not really that important, because you're going to be asleep in a minute. But if you feel more comfortable, then that's fine. I said, I would feel more comfortable. So they give me a bottle. They call it a bottle. It's basically a cardboard device.
Yeah.
Looks a bit like a shoe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's got a bit of plant, and it levels out at the bottom. They go out the room. One person stays in for safeguarding reasons. And I just couldn't wee or anything at all. It's just like, nah. It's a non-starter, that, I'm afraid. Next thing, put to sleep, and then I wake up in recovery. And the first thing I do is I go to touch my legs, and in and around my kind of midsection. And the surgeon who did it was in recovery. He was probably stood about 10 meters away. And I looked at him and I said, I'm still numb. I was expecting, I'm having surgery, the numbness is going to disappear. And he said, yeah, well, yeah, it's going to take some time. He just left it really brief, because clearly I'd just woken up from a general anaesthetic, still groggy, still a little bit out of it. And obviously he was going to explain in further detail, kind of later on that day, or the next morning it was actually. And yeah, that was the surgery. Stayed in hospital for 5 days, and within those 5 days, from the next day, I really struggled to pass urine. It took me about, obviously they were doing bladder scans as well before and after. I went to the toilet to see, you know, how much I was, you know, letting out, if you like, and then how much was left in after. It was obviously improving every day, but it was taking the best part of 10 to 15 minutes to empty my bladder. And then they wanted to keep me in until my bowels had opened, and it took 5 days. And I think naturally when they say to you, you know, do you want your meds? You just say yeah. So I'm having these meds. I've had a general anaesthetic, so it's bunged me up. So clearly, it's going to take some time for me to open my bowels, feeding me laxatives. Eventually, do it. But you know, looking back, I probably didn't need all the medication that I was having. And that's probably one of the contributing factors as to why I couldn't open my bowels, and I was in hospital for 5 days, because there was people kind of in and out within, you know, 1 to 2, maybe 3 days, and I was in there a little bit longer. And yeah, and then I was discharged.
Yeah.
I remember when I was before the day I was discharged, I still had no idea about Cauda Equina, and I remember the spinal nurse came to see me. Lovely team, by the way, the spinal nurses at the Walton Centre, and she said she went through, you know, kind of the aftercare piece. Do this, do that, eat lots of fibre. If you've got any problems, call us. You know, you got access to the spinal nurses, kind of not 24/7, but you know, there's an answer service. So if you've got any questions, you just give them a bell, and they'll get back to you. And she handed me these leaflets. One of them was spinal surgery, like small booklet, and one said Cauda Equina. And I looked at it and I said, I take it that's what I've got or what I've had. And she said, yes. I said, right, okay. I'll read the booklet, and I'll do some additional research as well. Yeah. So, and that was it from start to finish. So looking back, from they say 48 hours is the time frame where you need to get in there, to minimise any longer term effects. You know, I think we did a good job, to be fair. Injury sustained on the Friday, and then surgery was completed by the Sunday. So some of the stories that I've read, you know, from the Facebook groups that we're both on, you know, people have left it not through no fault of their own. People, you know, has not caught it in time, and it's left them with, you know, these long term, you know, life-changing symptoms, which I count myself quite one of the lucky ones, really. Because you know as well as I do, there's a lot of people out there that suffer from this injury or this condition, and they can't walk for the remainder of their life, or you know, on crutches, or they use a walking stick, or they've got to use a catheter for the remainder of their life. So in that respect, I feel, you know, very lucky that I got there nice and quickly.
Yeah, no, and it sounds like it as well. Very similar, where you kind of caught it just in that time. You mentioned about the sort of the numbness and I guess muscle loss. Did you have, because one of the things that obviously happened with me, and I'm sort of seeing this generally tends to be quite a normal thing as well, because as everything switches off, it happened with me where where my feet, where my legs went numb, my feet dropped. Did you get that as well? Is that something that kind of happened with you as part of the process, or no?
No. And then obviously, since I've been doing my research, you know that foot drop is another symptom that people have. Obviously yourself know, but I didn't get any foot drop. Had a lot of muscle. I'm classing it as muscle wastage, because basically I'm a very active person. You know, gym goer of 4 to 5 times per week, maybe twice a day sometimes. So the muscle tone prior to surgery, within my legs, my glutes, upper body, is all, you know, quite defined, and there was a lot of muscle there. Post surgery, couldn't even tense my calf, couldn't tense my glute. Try to tense it, and you just touch my calf, and it just flops side to side. Probably the same with you. Probably the same with, you know, thousands of people. But the strength, the normal strength, I'll class it as, was still there. So, you know, pushing the foot away, pushing the foot towards you, pushing the leg up, all that was intact.
Yeah,
which is
same.
Great. Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah.
That question. But I am starting to, you know, see a lot of positive outcomes at the moment with regards to my strength. I've still got an awful long way to go. I still can't really go on my tiptoes.
Right.
So it's just a case of keep on going, keep plugging away, keep doing the rehabilitation. But the numbness, I know you mentioned numbness is still there, and it's not changed an awful lot, which obviously is quite, you know, disheartening. But at the same time, I know that it can take time. You know, I'm 12 and a half weeks post-op now, so I'd like to think that it's still relatively early days. And going back to the point earlier, at the moment, the only thing that I'm still affected by is strength and numbness. And going back to what earlier about, you know, there's people that can't walk, for example. You know, I just need to be kind of thankful that I'm in the position I am in now.
Yeah. And with regards to like bowel and bladder and stuff like that, has that improved? Have you seen improvements post-op as well?
Yeah, bladder.
Despite numbness?
Yeah. My bladder seems to be working as it should.
Yeah.
And then with Cauda Equina, doing my own research as well, and you know, reading various posts and whatnot, you do get a side effect of constipation as well. So I won't open my bowels every day. It may be like every other day, but they are working. Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, because they said to me about self-cavitating, and even when I was at the hospital, I started to try to go on my own just to try and rebuild the muscle, and just kind of rebuild that memory, because obviously everything is kind of muscle memory, isn't it? It's kind of like brain to muscle function, let's go. And I was thinking, well, let me just keep trying. And since leaving the hospital and now, I've seen like a big improvement in just, it feels a bit more natural, and more bladder feels a bit more natural, but the bowel is still, you know, it's improving. Don't get me wrong, it's improving for sure.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, you know, it's definitely taking some time. With regards to your recovery, because you left hospital, you know, after 5 days, what's kind of been your routine? You know, what's been the sort of the key things that you've kind of been doing day to day that has helped you to, you know, to rebuild, to kind of build strength, not just kind of in the weak areas, as in kind of like bodily wise, but also mentally as well. You know, what's the kind of stuff that you've been doing to help you to get through this? Because as you know, there's no timeline for this, but it's, you know, it's just like a day-to-day, I guess day-to-day exercise, right? You just got to keep this in a day. And what's worked for you?
Yeah. So the main thing for me has been exercise, and obviously it's well documented in this day and age that, you know, exercise is huge for the mental health side of things, as well as, you know, keeping, you know, healthy in both the mind and body. But day to day, I'm just cracking on as much as I can with my rehab. So I'll go to the gym pretty much every day, because I'm able to drive now. First 4 weeks, I played it very safe. I was horizontal quite a lot of the time, and just doing short walks, literally, no more than 30 meters outside, up the road, back. So I played it very safe, no bending, no twisting. But since then I've just been progressing, doing the rehab as I mentioned, doing the strength work. So I kind of do that day on, day off, and then in between that, I'll just do some light bike work. And a few other little bits of cardio. Nothing that is going to make me kind of twist and turn and bend. And also for the mental health side of things is meeting up with people as well, because I've been off work for quite a while, and the reason for that is because I'm in the armed forces, and they've been great. They just said to me, obviously your priority now is to get fit and well, but I'm hoping to get back to work hopefully next week actually, but that's a different story. But just meeting up with friends and family, and trying to keep busy. I'm still doing little bits of work on the laptop, but what I found was sitting about and not really doing much wasn't great for me. So luckily I've got a great family and great friends in and around the area, so I've always got somebody that I can meet up for a coffee with, or go out for a little bit of food, or even just go for a little walk, as my body allows, clearly. So yeah, to answer your question, basically exercise, and meeting up with people, keeping busy. I've still been doing a little bit of work because I can work remotely with the laptop. And then just going back to the exercise, obviously I've not just been freestyling it and doing my own thing. I have seen a physio as well. I think it's important to mention that, because I've not just been doing my own thing. What I've been doing has been prescribed as well. So that's I'm quite lucky with that.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, because I think that's really important as well, because I've seen in the groups where people get diagnosed, whether it's too late or whatever point it is, and we've seen as well where all of a sudden they seem to leave hospital and there's no aftercare, and that's one of the things that I think it's always worth mentioning, and I keep getting into the episodes, and I've said there's been times where I had to really bang the table, to get assistance, to get help, and thankfully, I started the physio now this week properly, and had a good session, and like yourself, just trying to do the training every single day. And what I mean by training, like I've bought a bike, I've bought pedals now that keep my feet stable, and I do that on a bike 3 times a week. And then I have the physio stuff, which my new physio verified, and she said I can do these things whilst I'm not around. But and then we'll do everything else after that. But it's certainly been a change. It's definitely been a change. How has it kind of affected you, I guess, because we've only got about sort of 3 minutes left. How has that kind of changed your life, with your partner and your family, the sort of the dynamic?
I think the main thing at this stage, the thing that it's affected the most is obviously trying to adapt to this new way of, I wouldn't say of living, because I'm still doing the majority of things that I did pre-surgery or pre-injury. But the main thing is the activity levels. So I'm a very active person. I always like to, get out and about, play sport, go running. And I am keeping positive, and I am keeping optimistic that is going to come again, because I can't run at the moment. The only thing I can do is kind of go on a bike, and I'm not complaining. So please don't think I'm complaining. But yeah, I think it's just that side of things that's affected life mainly, and obviously walking around and not being able to feel the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's so strange to just not have certain sensations. One of the things that I'm kind of getting at the moment, I keep getting like shooting pains. They're not like painful. They're just irritating. But I was
Yeah,
talking to the physio, and she's like, to be fair, that's a good thing. So I was like, all right, well, you got to
yeah,
find gratitude somewhere,
yeah,
because it is one of these things that it can, I guess, if and I've seen it with with other people where it can really, really affect them. Because it's not an easy thing. There is no timeline to this. I think as you've done is just to really maintain that kind of that positive mindset, and just keep going. What would be your advice, I guess, for people who are going through this at the moment, whether they've just come out of op, they're going through kind of their process, or anybody that's, has been through the process, and may be struggling. What would you advise them? What would be the kind of the key things that you've seen has worked for you so far, and going through what you're going through, that this will benefit them as well?
yeah. So there's quite a few things, and I appreciate that everybody is different with regards to coping strategies and how they take care of themselves and what they are and aren't able to do. We spoke earlier about people, unfortunately not being able to walk, etc., etc. So it all depends on what you can and can't do. But if you're in a similar position to, if you basically, if you've got the capability to potentially do some sort of exercise, I'd always say that is my number one. If you're waiting for a physio appointment through the NHS, or if you've not got an appointment, I know it costs money, but potentially look at alternatives such as private physios. At the end of the day, you're investing in yourself. Health is wealth, and join up there with family. It's the most important thing is to be healthy. We're not on this planet very long, as cliche as that sounds, but you need to look after yourself. And if it means spending a little bit of money to go and see a professional, if you can do that, then I'd highly recommend that. Even if it's just for one appointment, just to get a little bit of advice and start that exercise and rehab journey, and then you could go down rabbit hole with it really. If you feel like the physio that you've seen, whether that be private or NHS, hasn't given you the right exercises, maybe go and get a second opinion. No harm in doing that. And then other things for me is just keeping as busy as possible, speaking to as many people as you can. I find that speaking really can help. Just letting your thoughts off. Especially, I find it easier speaking to people that I've not spoke to in a while. I don't know why. It sounds quite bizarre, but speaking to them, and it also refreshes the relationship, especially if you've not spoken to them for a long time. So yeah, exercise, keep busy, talking, and just get out and breathe in the fresh air as much as possible. If you can avoid it, try not to stay indoors. For the majority of the day. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because that's one of the things as I'm getting stronger, and being able to move about a little bit more. But the things I want to start to do is just get out, even if I just walk around, around the block, for a little bit, just to kind of get some fresh air. That's something I'm going to start introducing now as a bit of a daily thing, because my wife works, and she sometimes has to go into the office. So there's majority of the time really like I'm at home. Although I do my exercises, I kind of fill my day as, like you, I fill my day with things to do.
Yeah.
Being confined in one space, it can get, it's not just boring, but for some people it can actually start to get quite depressing, and it can really affect people's mental health. But I liked what you said with regards to investing in yourself, because I think that's so important. That's such an important thing to do, because when I left hospital, they were going to get me a community physio to come to the house, to start doing physio and start working together. And then they told me that the wait time for that was 30 weeks. And they referred me to Stoke Mandeville to do some outpatient care over there. But that can take up to 3 months. So I've been accepted as an outpatient, but that can take up to 3 months. And I thought, okay, so in between that time, we'll get some physio. And they said, well, actually, it's going to take 30 weeks, up to 30 weeks for someone to come back to you. So I was like, I'll be finished at Stoke Mandeville by the time that's done, because that's like over half a year. But like you, I took the initiative and I went, I don't have this luxury of waiting, because if I sit and do nothing, I'm not going to get any better. I'm only going to get worse, and I invested, that money in getting a physio. And, I invested the money in doing things that are going to help me. And thankfully, like you, I saw the benefits of that. I think, it's really about changing that mindset, because what we go through from the beginning and then kind of ongoing, I guess, until you reach, kind of the end point, it is a tough journey. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a tough journey, but one of the things I have found daily is, as long as I'm investing in myself somehow, especially around mindset, keeping a positive mindset, and not to say that when I struggle, I just kind of bury it and don't do anything about it. Like, you say, talking to someone, people you trust, that's helped me as well. Just being able to talk to people and be able just to kind of share and, and at times kind of be quite vulnerable, because I even said to my wife, who's a psychotherapist, so she's perfect, because I'll have a conversation with her, and I said to her, it's so hard, because as amazing that she has been and my kids have been amazing, they're never going to get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a lonely journey, because unless you're going through it on your own, or you're going through it yourself, it's so hard to explain to people sometimes, just how tiring it can be, sometimes, just move it. Because it's something that I never thought, just getting up off the sofa, going to the kitchen or going into the bedroom, was going to be such an effort. My 2-year-old comes running past me, and I'm like, I laugh about it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, I'm on the crutches now, so I've kind of, I'm starting to move a bit quick. I'm catching up. But you find that, that there are days where, there are struggles, and, it can be quite difficult,
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've harped on a lot there about, this has made me feel better and that's made me feel better. But there has been days, especially, in the first few weeks, where I've had some real down points, and I've been in tears. And I'm sure that, the majority of people that go through a traumatic experience are the same as well. So yeah, I have had down points, definitely. So some low points, some upsetting moments. And then when you're saying about, being tired and struggling to do this, struggling to do that, I always find in the morning is definitely the worst time for me. I've always been a morning person. So go back to pre-surgery, I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, do a session before work, crack on with work. But now I find that my numbness, or the loss of sensation, whatever you want to label it as, is always worse, especially in and around the feet. It's always worse in the morning. And I don't know if that's because my body's been in a state of rest. And then obviously you're getting up, and it's really hard to explain. It's hard to explain to people how that feels. When you say, when I say to somebody, I can't feel the back of my legs, I can't feel my back passage very much, and I can't feel the soles of my feet. and they kind of look at you and say, I can't imagine how that feels. And it's like, yeah, it is weird. But yeah, I know I've said it about 3 or 4 times. I'm just lucky that's the only side effect, as well as, you know, strength loss that I've got at the moment. Because there's people, I'm reading on the group that there's people, and I don't know about you, if you've still got any pain, but I read quite a lot of people that are in severe pain.
Yeah.
Are you still in pain, or?
No, not at all, mate. And that's the one thing that I am so grateful for. Because like you, when you were talking about when you collapsed and you were literally on the floor, just, when you managed to get yourself home and you were literally on the floor, just in a fetal position, just holding yourself that was me. And the sofa that I'm in now, that I slept here for a week, because I was getting the sciatica, the sciatic pain first, and I could not sleep on the bed, and I had to just sleep on the sofa. And the only way I could sleep was, just on a slight incline in the fetal position, because that's the only time that it would take pressure off the spine. And then towards the end, when the same thing happened with you, I just, we came home, picked the kids up from school. Oh mate, honestly, thank God. By the time I got home, I noticed when I got out of the car, my foot dropped, my right foot dropped. Thank God, just as I got home. And I was thinking, fuck, that's weird. Why is my foot feels like it was a kind of like quite lifting as much as it would. And I sort of got up the stairs and I said to my wife, I was carrying like 2 trays of eggs. And I had to give her the eggs, and I just collapsed on the floor and just burst into tears. And I was like, you, literally just holding myself. And she kept saying to me, are you okay? She took the kids because, so they didn't see. And I was literally like, she said to me, she's like, you were like a child. You were like literally just yelping. You was in so much pain. And I said to her, I've never felt anything like it. And eventually I managed to get myself into the bedroom, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, how is this happening? So to go from that, as you described as well, to almost feeling like I was going to pass out, to waking up post-op, to just all of a sudden go, fucking hell, where did it go? I didn't give a shit. I couldn't feel my legs. My legs had gone numb. The only thing I had was just the quads. The quads were working, which meant I could kind of bring my legs up and down. But my feet were like, they were like the old school, what's it called? Those kind of energy things. They were just going everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Literally, my legs were going all over the place. But nothing. And even now, there's just, as the muscles kind of like rebuilding, I'm getting just a little bit, but not, thank God, mate, nothing from the actual from how it was before.
Right. And then how's the bowel and bladder?
It's getting better. It's getting better every day. Yeah, it's getting better every day, because I'm still like, I leak. It's the one thing that I'm having some issues with. So I have to wear one of those active tenor pads. But I'm kind of like, yes, exactly. Yeah. The thing is, I said to the missus, I was like, what am I going to do about it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here crying and kind of pretending it's not happening. So I was like, well, you just got to get on with it. So we laugh about it. And, even with the glutes, what you were saying about the muscle deterioration, because I've never had anything like this before. I don't know about you, but I've never really, well, you said you kind of had, spinal surgery before, but I don't know whether it was, if you've had any muscle loss to this extent. No. So to literally then, like you, going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, always being, very strong, and to all of a sudden wake up and, when I managed to be able to move and then look at my glutes, and my wife looked at me and she went, where the fuck's your ass is gone? Do you know what I mean? Exactly. And I was like, what the fuck? And and everything was just switched off. And that for me that was a scary moment for me, because I realized, I was like, if it's switched off, is it going to switch back on? Do you know what I mean? Like, are things going to switch back on? And when it started to slowly, do you know what I mean? When I started to feel a little bit, and I started to feel some sensations, and I do a lot of sensory work. I'm constantly pulling, because obviously I've got drop feet on both. I do a lot of sensory work, so I'm constantly not scratching because it's itchy, but I'm scratching my feet. I'm constantly massaging. I'm constantly moving them around, because that's supposed to really help to kind of send, brain to feet message. But it also helps with, growth and, and sensations and stuff. And I do it on my legs as well, because it's still like the back of my hamstrings. So the back of my legs are still, there's areas that are still numb. So I'm constantly doing the same. And even with kind of private area, you know what I mean? It's the same, like I'm still, like a lot of the sensations come back, but around just, like underneath the ball bags and stuff like that. Still, there's still some numbness there. And that's the kind of stuff which is a bit, there's like a lot of wins, but there's still a few bits that are, there's still, it's getting there, and I can feel it, but it takes time.
It's early days, isn't it? I think your surgery was a couple of 3 or 4 weeks after that. 8 weeks.
Right, so I've been, so it's been, so on the 25th, it's going to be 2 months. 8 weeks.
Yeah, so still really early days.
Yeah.
So,
But this is where I'm grateful. Do you know what I mean? Because, post-op, like not having any pain, my right foot, my toes are moving more. I'm able to, start to move my foot. It's moving down a little bit. I'm able to start to kind of move it side to side, but it's not strong. It's not like how it used to be.
Yeah.
But just the fact that I can do that, I get proper geeked out about it, because I'm like, shit, it's happening, and, things are coming back to life. And the physio said to me, by the way, your muscles are active. I can feel them as you're doing things. They're activating, the signals are coming through. And as soon as she said that to me, because, I've always said at the beginning, like, I'm walking out of here stronger than I came in, and I'm going to recover 110%. Like, that's not even, there's no debate. I don't give a fuck. The doctor said, it's going to take a bit of time. The physio said to me, you've got to be mindful, you might just get 80%. And I went, no. I told her straight, no. I said, I'm recovering 110%, and that's it. She was like, yeah, but, and I went, there's no buts. I said, it is what it is. Like, this is happening. And she laughed, and she went, I'd love for you to prove me wrong. And I went, I will. And, and I haven't changed that, even through the really tough times. I've kind of stuck with it, because I don't want to give myself any opportunity to go, but what if? I'm like, what if what? Shit's happening. Do you know what I mean? So
I think it's important to have that mindset, definitely, especially in a situation like this. You could easily just go, doom and gloom. I'm never going to get better. And the mind and the body is a wonderful thing. The more you say that, the more it'll actually happen. Whereas if you continue to do what you do, and be determined that you'll overcome and make a full recovery, it's amazing what that kind of mindset can have.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I've realized is my body's recovered. Do you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, the post-op bit, I think, like you, thank God, the pain's gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, the pain's gone. So, and they said to me afterwards, look, everything went really well. There were no complications. Everything is okay. I was like, cool, okay. So let's just keep doing what we're doing, and then everything is all right. And all of a sudden now, look, everything's switched on. I'm like, brilliant. I'm recovered then. So there's no mindset, I'm still kind of recovering, because then with the stuff that I've studied over the years, I've learned the power of language, the power of words, and I've learned over the years to speak as things has already happened. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm recovered then. And someone said to me, he said, yeah, but what's happening now? And I'm like, I'm rebuilding. I said, my body's recovered. I'm not in pain. So what, there's nothing wrong. all there is now is just this is it now. I'm at the rebuild phase. I'm just rebuilding muscle. I'm rebuilding muscle so that I can walk again, and my nerves are rebuilding that, we get full sensation. And I keep telling myself that every single day, because then my body goes, cool, all right, well, let's rebuild then. Let's keep doing what we're doing. But it's one of the things that I find interesting with this, and I'd love to kind of get your opinion, and I definitely want to bring other people in as well to kind of have their experience, is this is so cunning, this syndrome, because it doesn't matter, like you like me, we both caught it within the 48-hour mark. Do you know what I mean? I was exactly the same. Got refused to take on Friday when the numbness was starting. And then by Monday, by the time I got to hospital, my right foot dropped, my left foot dropped. And then I started to get the real numbness, around the bladder. And I lost bladder sensation like the next day. We had the op, within the 48 hours, because by the time I got to hospital, as you know, that's kind of when things went numb. And as I understand it, that's when it's really crucial that, that's when the clock starts ticking. So we got it. Do you know what I mean? We got it in time. And what I find really interesting, no case is the same. No one's the same.
Yeah.
And this is, where I always try to be, really mindful of, like when I'm speaking to people, and this is something that for me, like I'm really trying to dig into this now to kind of really understand, people's journeys to discover a way to help more and more people. Do you know what I mean? Is it a mind thing? Because everybody's so different. Is in to do more, less to do. There's going to be an element of physio there, obviously.
Yeah.
But the mind rebuilds the body. Do you know what I mean? The mind, rebuilds everything. You have a cut on your finger, eventually, we don't even have to think about it. It heals itself. And as I've been studying over the years, well, if that's the case, then how much then can we do? I guess my question is, how have you found it so far, with seeing so many differences in the group? How have you kind of kept it, I guess, simple and sort of focused on you, so it didn't, I guess, affect your recovery, if that kind of makes sense? Because no one's the same.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's so you can search on the groups. I think I'm in about 3. I don't know how many you're.
Oh, just that one. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah. So there's another couple that I'm in as well. There's just a UK based one as well. But you can go on for days and weeks scrolling through, just reading everybody's posts and reading the comments. And as you said there, it's everybody's different. Everybody that kind of goes through it is has different symptoms. They've had surgery at different times. So I think with regards to looking at other people's posts, I think it's trying to narrow down who is similar to you and who's had similar kind of symptoms and when certain things were triggered. Just if that makes sense. So I mean, you can go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, can't you? You can read somebody's story that could be quite unsuccessful, and automatically that puts bad thoughts into your mind. You think, God, I'm never gonna come out of it. But then, the day after, you'll read somebody else's story, a very successful story, made a full recovery, great, and then it can put you kind of hopes up, if you like. I think it's very important that that people do their own research. I've done a lot of research, especially in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and it is just is a simple case of everybody recovers differently. Everybody's story is different. And I've said it 3 or 4 times and I'll say it again. I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones because of all I've got, the issues that I've only got now. But yeah, I think it's just important to stay as level-headed as possible, and don't get too disheartened by somebody else's what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody else's who hasn't had a good time, basically.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, everybody has their journey, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the things which, especially in the early days when my wife found this that group that we're both on, I jumped on it and just wanted to kind of just read a few posts, see how things are, introduce myself, and I read some positive things on there, and there were some negative ones as well, of people. And again, I don't know their journey fully, but it noticing that people were having like knee surgery, that seems to be like post-op, and after a few years where people were having knee surgery.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, even though they some people were going through some real struggles, I always tend to kind of look for solutions. And one of the things I remember looking, there were a couple of posts of people that where I don't know why, I don't know enough of their journey, but it seemed like it caused them knee surgery. Obviously, their knees, worn out, or whether they didn't get physio, or, they weren't given any splints or whatever it is. Obviously their knees, must have been hyperextending or whatever it may have been, that they didn't have enough of the muscle strength, where it needed to. And I remember just thinking, right, how do I avoid that?
Yeah.
And I remember just writing it down and kind of going, right, got to really make sure you get the splints, got to make sure. So I already started telling the physios, look, how do I avoid this? How do I avoid that? How do I make sure that, I'm fit for purpose? When I leave here, I've got to make sure that I'm, as best as I can be, so I can continue then, building from that. But there's been a couple of times as well where I did look at some of the struggle, or sorry, some of the successes, and my mind can quickly go into, wow, you got dropped for, you're not quite there yet, doing a comparison. And I had to very quickly, bring myself back in and kind of go, everybody's different, man. And even in the 8 weeks, that I've been home, kind of that post-op, I've had to really learn to realize not to compare. Do you know what I mean? Really keep that comparison thing, out of the door, whilst I'm going through this, because as you said, and we've kind of identified, no one's the same, man.
No.
Like no one is the same. And I really sympathize with a lot of people in that group, because I want to, especially with what I do, sometimes I want to, the initial thing for me is I want to go and help someone. How can I help people? But I've realized with this is like, I can't help anybody. I can only help me, but find people like yourself where, we've got that, that kind of that common thread, and we can kind of bond on that and go, right, let's create a community there, of people who are doing it, because we can then help each other in that way, and that's where then we can all kind of be of service somehow. But hopefully in going through the journey, we might be able to then, help somebody who might be a bit lost, who may not have got the service, who may be able to, but they'll have to then see it for themselves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Going back to, you mentioned there about people having to have secondary surgery, knees, hips, all that stuff. That could simply be down to one, that they couldn't have done anything about it, and it was going to always happen, or two, they could have potentially prevented it if the care was there, or they'd reached out and gone to somebody private. But on the flip side, they might have been so down and distraught just from having CES that they just thought, my life's over. So, could there be better support? There's a few kind of scenarios there, isn't there?
Well, this is it as well, right? Because I think there's a level where, the NHS, unfortunately, they're overwhelmed, massively understaffed. But how much is that? How much is it their fault? And how much do you need to take responsibility and accountability for your recovery post-op? I always say to people, look, you are as much responsible for you as actually you are the one who is responsible for you in every case. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to make you better. No one's going to help you to succeed. No one's going to help you to heal 100%. This is you on you. And I've realized that with previous things that I've experienced, and I think there's got to be, I think, as you said, we do live in a world now where we have resources at our feet. Do you know what I mean? Yes, there may be some investment. I get it. Some people might not be able to, but I would always go, I would always challenge that and kind of go, and I'm not kind of judging anyone. Let's just go hypothetically, right? And I've seen it in many different cases where somebody will, they will go, well, I can't afford therapy, or I can't afford coaching, I can't afford to heal myself, mentally, physically, whatever it may be, or a nutritionist. But I've got more than enough money to smoke 20 fags a day. I've got more than enough to sink 20 pints, every Friday night. I've got more than enough to shug a bag of cocaine in my nose. And I've got more than enough to go to McDonald's, 3-4 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. What
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then this is where I always throw the question, and I'm not saying it from a judgmental perspective. I've done all of those things myself. I've been a drug addict. I've been an alcoholic. I've been addicted to porn. I've been, obese. So I don't say things that I haven't been there myself. So I understand, what that challenge can be. And I've made those excuses as well. I've made those excuses myself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I've had to learn the hard way to go, actually, there's no fucking excuse for your life. But I wanted to ask you something, because once again, we're almost at that 40-minute mark. What's your views on nutrition? How much does that help you?
Massively, yeah, definitely. It's always been a massive part of my life, especially from the early adult stages or adult stages up until now. I've had to alter it a little bit since this. I found that I know we spoke about the glamorous subject of constipation earlier, but I found that flax seeds have really helped. It's basically like a powder. You can add it to food, you can add it to smoothies.
Yeah.
But I felt that's helped quite a lot, especially with the bowel situation. But in general, I've always been very conscious about what I eat and how much of it I eat. I am quite a greedy person. My wife will second that. Yeah. But I try and attend to save my intake of food for those meals, so it allows me to have that a little bit more. But I always make sure that obviously I'm drinking plenty of water. Again, going back to the muscle memory with regards to bladder function. So I'm always drinking fluids. Always, obviously going to the toilet as and when I should. Don't get me wrong. I'm no angel. I'll still quite happily have a Snickers bar or something like that.
Yeah. Man.
But it goes back to that old word, moderation. But I do tend to really watch what I eat, especially as my activity levels have come down somewhat. If I rewind back to pre-surgery, I could probably get away a little bit more with eating probably a little bit more food, and not having to worry about it too much. Whereas now, because the activity levels have dropped, just need to keep one eye on that. So, going back to your question probably about 40 minutes ago about advice to anyone, I think nutrition is a big one as well. If you've suddenly got CES and you can now, no longer do anything, any sort of physical exercise, you really need to look at what you're eating, because it could be quite easy to kind of, put that weight on, and then that will lead to further health issues.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
I imagine you're the same with regards to like nutrition.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I've, over the years, I've tried different things. I've always kind of struggled with my weight, more kind of when I was like sort of a teenager, and then as I kind of got into my 20s.
Same with me. That.
Yeah, it was, it was kind of up and down, and then I then started to, to take a little bit more care. But as I got into my 30s, then I really dialed that in. And over the last 2 years, maybe like a year and a half or so, I have kind of issues with my stomach. There's certain foods I can't eat. Which, to be honest, I've been eating some of them at the minute because it helps me go, but usually I cut it all out. I've got like irritable bowel syndrome, so I can blow, and it's not pleasant. Right. So I started doing a carnivore. It's not pure carnivore, so not just like pure meat. I did that for about 30 days, and I went, as much as I love meat, I can't do it. Just meat. It's just, one, it's too boring, and two, I like living. Do you know what I mean? I'm not one of these extremists where you go either one way or another. And I just found a good balance. You know what I mean? I found a good balance of, I eat meat every day. I eat eggs. I eat a ton of eggs. Hard cheese, raw milk, raw honey, and fruits. But like you, every now and then, I'm a fiend when it comes to chocolate and ice cream. So every now and then, I'll go, right, let's just have a bowl of ice cream, or let's just like, it was my son's birthday. It's my birthday on Saturday. Do you think I'm going to eat a piece of steak and go, oh yeah, this is my birthday cake? Hey, I'm definitely going to have a lot of, I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
So it's exactly that. It's having a balance, but also having that, that compulsion to kind of go, well, do you know what? I know I'm in, especially at the hospital, because probably, as you know, I know you were only there for 5 days. I was in there for 5 weeks, mate. And honestly, they love to feed people biscuits and cakes and teas, and they'll do it like 3-4 times a day.
Yeah.
But that shocked me, because they'll give you breakfast in the morning, and the breakfast stuff, it's just, a lot of it is just, it's the usual processed stuff. And then they'll give you lunch and then you have a dinner. In between that time, it's tea and biscuits, and, you can have as much as you want.
Yeah.
So, if you're not careful, that kind of stuff, as well as all the medication, all the stuff that they give you, that stuff will mess up your stomach, which did with me. And I know you mentioned it kind of blocked you up. It did with me. They kept giving me laxatives. They gave me some laxatives to take home. I started taking them, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm more blocked up now than I was before. So I stopped taking them now. Just stopped taking it and just started doing the pelvic exercises, and that's been helping. Right. And now, because my stomach, because I've gone back to the usual natural way of me eating, it's it's been all right.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah. But listen, mate, we're down to that 1 minute. I don't want us to get to get cut off again. But let's definitely do a number 2, because this is like a progressive journey for us.
Exactly.
And I definitely want us to kind of stay up to date, and we'll stay connected outside of here anyway. But listen, mate, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on, for sharing your experience, and for really adding value today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me again. Enjoyed it. Good. Hopefully you can get some more. I don't know. I know you just want to. I don't know if you want to keep it as a mini series with the CES thing, but it'd be great if you could get some other people on and get their experiences as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I'm going to actually post it in the group. So, people who are listening, if they want to join,
Yeah.
then, drop me a message, because I am definitely want to be speaking to more people, who have had different experience. They are willing to share their experiences, add value, really get the name out, the cause of, Cauda Equina Syndrome, the journeys that they've been through, the awareness, which is something that's important. So look, thank you so much once again for being here. And for you, the listener, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for taking part. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful to you for doing that, and for really helping us, the survivors who have gone through, who are going through Cauda Equina Syndrome at the moment, or CES. And the more and more we share this information, the more awareness we can bring to people, and the more and more we can help others. Have an amazing day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And as always, be great, be fantastic, and be absolutely phenomenal. See you soon. Take care.